Okay, my name is Jeff Burton from Direct Digital Controls, making a video on how to download a DX9100. Sorry for the crudeness, but this is just my iPhone looking at my laptop. First thing we need to do is make sure that we have the files that we're going to download, and in this case we're going to be downloading, for my example, this one here called New Air Handler 4, and it's in a folder on my C drive, Projects, Butte, Arts folder. That's where I've put it. You can put it anywhere you like, just on your computer. Just know where you put it. I've already hooked up my USB serial adapter to the DX9100, and the first thing I like to do is I launch HVAC Pro, believe it or not, because it has a really neat feature up here called Action Controller Information, all devices on the N2 bus. And in my case, I'm using my USB driver is on port 1. It could be on port 2. I won't go into setup of the USB driver right at this time. We'll do that in another video. But whichever port you're using, that has to be set right there. I always tell it to start at address number 1 and let it start scanning, because if you're actually on a trunk hooked up where you've taken the trunk loose from a NCM or a Jace and you're just scanning down the trunk to see what's there, you'll see everything. And in this case, I only have one DX hooked up to the trunk, or hooked up to my USB adapter, and it happens to be address number 6. So that's another thing we need to know, is what is the address of the DX. In the Arts building case, I don't necessarily know the exact address, so make sure you use the right address. Okay, and I know there's only one here, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel this and not let it. It'll count all the way up to 255 because there's that many possible addresses. And do we want to look at the file? No, we don't. It creates a file, tells you what's out there, but we don't need to look at that right now. So that's all I wanted to do with HVAC Pro, was the action controller information, just to see who is out there on the trunk. And that does several things. It verifies that my USB adapter is working, and it verifies that I know what the address of the DX is. Next, we're going to open up GX9100. Let me go and close this. Here's my GX9100 program, and we're going to open up the file. Go up here to File, Open, and it defaults to the WGX9100 folder. So you have to double click on the C drive and navigate this around. This is just like any other Windows navigator. And I'm going to go to Projects, and then down to Butte, and down to Arts, and then scroll this down to New Air Handler 4. And there it is. I won't go into the details of here, but just make sure it looks something like this. You got a bunch of boxes and a bunch of lines. The next thing we're going to do is, now the USB adapter is connected to the N2 trunk on the DX9100. So I'm going to say Action Download. And then you have to tell it what you want to download. If the DX has XT modules, you have to select DX and the XTM. In this case, there is only a DX, there are no XT modules, and it's not address 40. We have to tell it address number, in this case number 6, and tell it where you want to send the file, or send this to. Do you want to send it to a file or out your COM port? And in my case here, we're going to go out COM number 1, and then I'll say OK. And then you get the little hourglass starting, and down it goes. And at this point in time, if you look at your DX, the display on the DX will say halt, which is a good thing. It's receiving the data. And as soon as it's done, it'll tell us here on the screen here in a second that it's done. If you do not have the file, the DX9100 file, and you want to upload a DX9100, make darn sure that you're uploading and not downloading. It's very, very easy to do what I just did and open up the GX9100 with a blank display, with nothing in there, and then you go up to Action, Upload Controller, and this is where I stress you have to make sure you say upload, because if you by accident say download, guess what? You just downloaded a blank to your controller, and now you're really dead. So just be very, very careful when you're doing that. And now the thing says download's complete. So we say OK, and the DX should take off and run, and that's how you download a DX.